So I'm just gonna reboot out the stream from today. I downloaded it, took it off my site, boosted the audio because I forgot to do it this morning. Well, that's a lesson I didn't need, but there it is. And so here's the stream anyway. September the 2nd, 2016. I'm Dana Durnford, your host, the nuclear proctologist.org. And you can find all of these videos and Fukushima presentations over most of the internet, not just YouTube. The narrative is strong for the anti-nuclear out there now that we built and earned. The Geiger counter in the top right-hand corner is live. And we live in an amazing world, in an amazing time, in an amazing place where we can equalize the lies and the manipulations and the deceptions through venues like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And YouTube is the biggest sharing site on the planet. It's the one with the patent that allows you to stream perfectly every video, literally. Even with bad connections, you're able to stream videos and upload videos for free. And is the most widely used venue on the planet, but yet for some reason it has allegedly fallen from grace. But YouTube has taken down many corporations, many corrupt government officials, many dictatorships have been destroyed from the videos posted on YouTube by just the average citizen, not the staged events where the government does it, but just from natural citizens in little communities. And then the wealth of information and talent and skill, even from the most impoverished reaches of the planet, have made themselves welcomed on YouTube. The world is crying out for peace. The world is crying out for common sense. The world is crying out to stop with the madness, the insanity, the ludicrousness of what we have done with nuclear is just one of the prime examples. And we don't live in a world where we can trust the system, we can trust the government, we can trust the official, we can trust the corporation. We just don't live in that world anymore. And we have no right to think we do. Because we attempt to continue to live in that world, what we find is we become complacent to our obligations, our responsibilities for a better world, for our future, and for the animals and the insects and the fauna and the flora on the planet. We are the stewards. They don't create industry. They're not driving cars. They're not sending rockets into space. They're not at war with machinery and chemicals that are man-made. They do their own thing in nature. That's nature. We are trying to be better than that natural instinct to just take whatever. We go to work. We have bills. We live in a structure. We go to supermarkets, etc., etc. We drive down the road. We use our blinkers. And I know there's exceptions, right? That's the point of it. And some exceptions have gotten out of control. Imagine if a transport truck driver had a titanium transport truck and he just smashed cars all day wherever he went. No one ever arrested him. No one ever said, hey, gee, that's wrong. No one, his family, his friends, his loved ones said, my goodness, you're such a great truck driver. But he doesn't tell them that he runs over children and animals and vehicles in his daily chore. He's a good provider because he has a guilty conscience and a lot of money, and he's able to be extravagant with his friends or his families or his loved ones who become complacent and who willingly accept. And we've seen a lot of examples in history where families have turned away their children who became criminals with terrible atrocities in order to gain wealth, and that the families would turn their back on those children who try to bring that wealth to them years later. And they say, no, you got it from dirty crimes. That is what your government is. That's what your media is. We have lost control of the entire planet just on these flaws and these faults And a prime example I'm going to bring up for everybody, and I know it looks like Japan will reactivate the Fukushima nuclear reactor. Well, that video now has a little over 200 views since last night. It's been stuck for most of the time. And anytime you call it now, the Daily Caller is owned by Tucker Carlson. I have been censored relentlessly on the internet for saying the things I say, for saying, hey, we need to have a conversation. Hey, here's documentation that they're lying to you. And here's Andrew Follett claiming that they're going to relight up the reactors in Japan. The ludicrousness of that statement, and it is a ludicrous statement when you think about what the buildings actually look like. Look at that. How are you going to plug that back in? That's Unit 3 here. Go to those pictures. There's a close-up of it after. Here's Unit 4 before they tore it down. And here's what the building should look like. These are pictures we have to show every day. These are pictures and topics we have to talk about every day as the new people are coming through and waking up and understanding that all the reactors, just one of these reactors can kill the planet. We got 4 in Japan. 4. And if you try to assimilate them into the actual model, you realize all the reactors and 5 reactor cores up in the roof area in those pools are gone, completely gone. And that they just manipulated you and deceived you for 5 years straight while the Pacific Ocean died off. While we watched the death of the Pacific Ocean, the death of the whales, the mammals, the seals, the birds, how did they die? They starved to death. They starved to death. They were emaciated. The whales went from 12 inches of blubber down to, hi everybody, I'm thirst. I know we missed you yesterday, honey, and it's okay if you take a year off. I'll miss you, don't get me wrong, but you have been here supporting us nonstop. And people like Elaine, and here's Nuts for Art. This is Lonnie. We done a radio show. We finished an hour and a half ago or so with 3 of us on the show. Got pretty fun. And you know me, I like it. I like it rough a little tiny bit. It gets me, it's like coffee for me, that's all. It's really good. And Jason, hey, hi everybody. Hyper Fix It. And Hyper Fix It. And Lonnie's Nuts for Art, UCY TV. And Debbie. Debbie's an incredible musician. Hi everybody. Aqua. Neil. Hi everybody. Elaine is out there, I'm sure. Alex. And everybody else. Thomas Ackerman. I'm here to listen to the most important broadcast. There you go. And the greatest catastrophe since man invented anything. Yeah, literally. There is no precedence for this one. Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. You're way too kind. Jan Brooks. I was just about to mention. And Thomas, you'll find his links below. He's blogging. He's actually a incredible artist. And as we know with artists, they have the time and patience to rationalize and think things through and rehash it. And they will look at their mistakes. They're not the people that turn their back on their mistakes. They look at their mistakes, they study that, they rectify that so that can never happen to them again. That's one of the unique things about an artist is they have that diligence. It's not imprinted into you. You have to do that yourself. You have to work to be that person. You have to focus. You have to dedicate. You have to sacrifice to be an artist. And everybody knows that. And most artists don't become anywhere famous until after they're long gone. And so you have to have faith. And that's an important thing in everything we do. Aqua. And hi, everybody. Alex. Joseph, anybody I didn't get, my apologies. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Oh, I thought you had you up on my other screen. I didn't. But anyway, these comments will disappear after, so I like to showcase them all the time. Good and the bad. And we get lots of bad here at this site. And Amster is hooked on learning and understanding and educating. And she understands the importance of the event like everybody else you're seeing here. That is the importance of it. I don't do this for something to do. I'm not doing this because I'm bored I didn't go through all this misery to get everything to work because I'm lazy or lethargic or anything else. I didn't do 260 days out here on the ocean surveying the coastline over the last couple of years for something to do. We didn't spend 5 months away from home documenting an extinction event along the coastline of British Columbia for just random stuff. We've done all this because that story has to be told. It has to be told right, and it has to be told often, and it has to be told firsthand. It has to be told from somebody that, as far as I'm concerned, like myself, where I covered 9,000 headlines before I went on the ocean, to make sure that we had something. And then when we looked at the ocean, because I have 14,000 hours underwater, it was easy now to start piecing together what was going on. And the horror of this, the shock of it, the absolute urgency of what we done, why we do it, and why we're still doing it, and why we know now it's an event. We've had an event on this planet, and that life is never going to be the same, and that is going to be a lot of misery around you and your friends and your families and your loved ones from diseases that will show up long before the cancer from the radiation. Everybody's ingesting it. We have inconceivable amount of actual documentation on Fukushima, but also we have 3 times or more of that, and we're talking 25,000 documentations for Fukushima. We have at least 3 times that on just radiation itself, idle. And on top of that, I have around 7,000 lectures on radiation, accumulated over almost a decade. And so the wealth, now on top of that, I've weathered the storms upon character assassination and everything else for years. I've weathered all that because I'm not a bad person, because I'm not lying to anybody, because I'm not going to make anything up, because I'm going to try to provide everything that I talk about as I talk about it. And that I have such a vast, incredible, inconceivable amount of just tough software that I've managed to master. I can do and bring and introduce you to any aspect at any time that I feel like it, on any subject. There's nothing that I can't sling into. And if not, I can just bring up whatever I want. And that's not what it's supposed to be, but okay, I see what I've done there. So I can bring up the browser and get up there and just type in and find anything that I don't actually have already stored inside. And you wouldn't believe the things that I have and the documentations already. But to me, I was forced to be this way in order to come out and talk about the subject. I was forced to actually walk that walk and talk that talk, because I understood that was the right thing to do, because I understood I had no options, because I understood the enormity of what I was looking at. So does everybody else, I'm sure. But what I done was, I just went out there and went slugging it out with everything out there. I went off on everything that I found that was lying. And so, you can't call someone a liar without backing up a lie. But originally, I understood the lie, but I wasn't able to articulate it. And as time and years went by, I become really good at articulating. If you use Twitter, you learn to articulate really well for certain things, because you can link to somewhere else, right? But it wasn't never enough. And it's now to the point where I can do just about anything they can do in order to try to compete with them. And I do a lot more than they will do, for sure. And I produce skits and everything else. But what I'm up against is a system that has censored me relentlessly on the internet, for instance, and that they censor me and are stalking me. These are stalkers, the nuclear industry in particular, have arrested me, charged me with crimes that are political hyperbole, even in my own country, not to convict me, but to demonize me, to use it to smear me and to bludgeon me, to use it to trick you with, to use it to try to bankrupt me. And I have to go to court finally. It's not actually it's supposed to go to trial in a couple of weeks, right? on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of September this month. But we know they're not going to come to trial. We know they're not going to show up. We know this was all about burning my assets. This was the equivalent of a judicial slap lawsuit against public participation. But there's other ways to do it. What that is all about is bankrupting you. So no matter how they come at you to bankrupt you, it's still a slap suit, even though it's not actually. It used to be litigation. Now it's judicial. Charge you with a crime, then have all the biggest medias on the planet come out and claim that you're uttering death threats and that you're a violent thug and that the victims that I was targeting are innocent when in fact they're mass murderers, when they're vicious thugs, when they're completely out of control. When they tell people to go ahead and eat the product because there's more natural radiation than there is man-made, that's murder. There's no shortcuts around that. There's no, you can put butter on both sides of the bread, but you're still butter and bread. It's very straightforward. It's not something that is confusing to a jury or a tribunal or a judge or an actual representation of the law. But when you have a circus in a star chamber, which is a courtroom that considers itself above the Canadian Bill of Rights, that it's unaccountable and that it's untouchable and that they're special people and that they're able to pass sentences without laws. They're able to enforce those sentences without juries, without lawyers, without a debate. In other words, they can get rid of anybody ultimately that they don't like, and they can do it through a system that's under the guise of legalese, but it's actually not. So you don't get as much slurping when I'm using that noise gate for the microphone. Oh, it's been a rough couple of days to get that to work. But okay, it's just like, it's been a tough. I just come off the ocean again, and I lost the use of both of my legs for several days, but I'm back up on my feet. But I lost the fate in my legs. I can't trust them anymore to carry me. And so it might take a long time for me to trust myself again like that, my legs. So I'm off the ocean, but anyway, I got banned. I was only on the ocean for one day. I went out to Banfield and researched that coastline. Went and asked the Research Institute why there was only 14 species out of 7,200. They see me coming and banned me. And then pretended that they were naive and gullible, yet they've been there for 40 years. And so this is just emblematic of the industry. I'm banned from Woods Hole. I'm banned from the University of Victoria in British Columbia, Canada. I'm banned from Banfield. Public research institutions on the public. It's a non-profit public organization banned me just because I was going to ask them why there's only 14 species, not 7,200 under shorelines. And that they're taking money to study 7,200 species, not taking money to study the 14 emaciated, soon to die off and perish species that are left. And that they didn't inform, the 71 universities that coexist there didn't inform their communities and the people that are funding them of this. And so, not only that, you're talking about an extinction event where 4.2 million other creatures. What you're looking at behind me is a map of the radioactive fallout. I can bring that up in a bigger format for everybody. So that's the fallout from 3 or more nuclear clouds. So they radiated your whole country way back in the day, see? They done that because they were worried Russia was going to do that. So they radiated your whole country because this is the simulation, what the FBI said would happen if Russia attacked them. But when you think about spent nuclear fuel, then you think about what they got, it's not real storage, it's just they're holding it in these places. These are in tons. 1 pound of it will kill everybody on the planet. 5 million pounds of it, put in 5 million buildings around the planet, and 1,500 people walk into each of those buildings. In 20 minutes' time, there won't be a single person left on the planet. But when it comes to Japan, I'm not going to play these clips because that's the old audio. I got to make all new clips now because we finally got We finally got audio without all the while I'm in between me talking and why I'm talking, yeah? So you got nuclear waste all over your country. You already radiated your country because you were worried Russia was going to do that. You got nuclear plants, you got missile silos throughout your whole country. And then off the coastline of your country, you got all kinds of dumps from the 40s and the 50s and 60s and 70s. And some of these dumps, you went out and dumped 1/6 of a gram. 14 curries, and there's 88 curries, and a curry is 37 billion radioactive atoms. Distributed out, that's 37 billion cancers. And that cancer takes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years to manifest, diagnose. And there's 1,800 diseases will show up long before that. Diabetes, if you're going to do a study, you do it on diabetes, not cancer. You do a study on Alzheimer's, not cancer. You do a study on heart problems or liver problems or lung problems or respiratory, certainly, and gland problems, and the adrenaline gland, the pituitary gland, thyroid glands, because you can't transplant glands, so they're affected dramatically, and they're the most important things in your body is your glands, not your organs. Your organs are the second most important, like to the well-being and function of your body. And so your heart, your lungs, and your brains are the most important ones. And your brain will shut down everything in your body to preserve the heart and the lung. So that's why most people go unconscious, because you have injuries and your body shut down your body because it wanted to sustain that energy for the lungs and the heart to keep the brain alive. That's how it works anyway. Everything else is trigger effects. And Jan says she's got the interviewer that we done this morning edited and good to go. That's good news. It's just like kind of gallows laugh, because that was one of those interviews where we were going nonstop. But Jan's really good at her editing. You'll find that up at Miss Milky the Clown 1. And Lonnie, I'm sure, will have it up in Nuts for Art or UY, or up at UCY TV. Okay, let's keep going. I just happened to catch that in the comments section. So, just a quick reminder, because I happen to import it over to this side. I'll bring that up in the big screen. These are the studies on all the animals, and I'm not going to play the clip right now. It's only a 10-second, but I'm not going to play it. And then death from radiation, 1.5 to 5.4 years after exposure. Tumors of the lungs, the skeleton, liver after 3 years. Bone tumors, 93 dogs were the most common cause of death. Lung tumors, found in 46 dogs, were the second most common cause of death. And liver tumors were found in 20 dogs, but were the cause of death in only 2 dogs, occurred later than the tumors in the bones and the lungs. So the lung happens in the bone, and the tumor in the bone is making white blood cells, is mutating stem cells. So then your stem cells are mutated, they're going out there and trying to do their thing, rejuvenate the body, and they're incapable. Okay, and these findings in dogs, the second last sentence, suggest a similar dose-related biological effects will happen in the humans. So that same effect will happen around here, around the fuel waste sites. It'll happen around the missile silos, happen around the nuclear power plants, but it's going to happen all throughout the country anyway, because they done that to you and that to you. Right? So they got nuclear facilities, but also the ocean. It was covered yesterday, the day before, the waste sites around the ocean. I'm not going to pop it up right now, but zip back here. Okay. Now, what happened in Japan? What happened in Japan was an event, a real event. Japan. Let's bring that up and just zip through that so everybody got the same foundation. Now, I've seen so much damage from earthquake throughout the country. Highways broken and torn apart and damage throughout the country. I have no doubt about anything I talk about. The tsunami is 400 kilometers. It was originally 170 miles wide, the continental shelf that broke off. That came in and took out 400 kilometers of the coastline. And I really should have those schematics up at the top. I'm going to just copy them. That's not going to work for me, though. Okay, so the nuclear power plants are in the same area. This one here is where all the people died. They died because that came through their community, right? Do you understand that part yet? It's just me farting around. Don't worry, folks. So what you're looking at there is, this is where all these people died. That's 400 kilometers of the coastline. This is where all the nuclear power plants, they got 30 million one-ton bags. So far, this is just a tiny fraction. Just from that little spot there called Fukushima, not from that whole area where all these people died and where all those plants were too, and where all this damages and where all this agony and heartbreak and horror and just Hollywood has never made a movie that compared to any of these pictures. They can't. They haven't got the budget. Even digitally, they couldn't conceive it. And still not enough power to run crucial machinery. See, this was the lie, New York Times, March the 21st, but they knew that the building was destroyed. They knew they couldn't go in and connect power to it. They knew these buildings totally, completely, and utterly detonated. They knew how powerful. Nobody knows where that went to. Don't click stuff in unless you're going to click it. Now, that was a great picture, and I don't know where he's gone. Okay, that's okay. He's not gone too far. I'll find him and put him back in there at some point. But yet, this is the picture they showed you of that building. Right? They said it looked like that. That's the official picture. Here's the official picture from 3 months ago from Tepco. I'm not going to play the clip right now, but he goes right to that picture. That's where I got screen capture from. And he claims that is inside of that. And, I don't need to play you Seth Dorn's clips and Miles O'Brien and the people from CNN and the people from ABC Australia. Do I? No. Okay. Good. Excellent. And so, you got fallout coming throughout the countries from the different models, from the different institutions, from different countries. And then Norwegian actually ended it. And you got Miles O'Brien pretending that he's inside of Unit 4 at Fukushima Prefecture. He walks up to Unit 4 Fukushima Prefecture, and the next clip comes to that. Really something else, right? They want you to believe that everything is hunky-dory, and everything is fine, and that you're just fear-mongering, you're being like, yet this is a model of the releases. They're coming out of Japan right now from NOAA. That's NOAA made the model, not Dana. Not somebody weird out there or nice out there or useful out there. This was the government. And I say that because they only included 2 isotopes, and they only included the venting. They didn't include the melted reactors I just showed you. They didn't include the meltdowns, the melt-throughs, the melt-outs. They didn't include any of the inventories. They didn't include the 6 reactors in each of the buildings. They only included a couple of days of manned venting. So if you're on the ocean, you're breeding it. If you're in your community in North America, you're breeding it. This is over 40 days. This is April the 1st, April the 2nd. And the accident happened March 11th, 2011. And because they're not going to show you that, right? They're not going to show you that on your TV sets. Even though that's your government. They're going to say there's no evidence. Even though there's endless models. There's endless models by different institutions, even from Japan. There we go. From leaving Japan, boom, North America. Watch this. It's all the way across the Pacific in continuous line. It gets way worse than that after a couple of days. There you go. Game over. So if a terrorist attack happened in your community, you couldn't do anything like this. But yet they would radiate your community because a terrorist blew up a dirty bomb, yeah? A dirty bomb is man-made stuff, not bananas and potato chips. You can't take bananas and potato chips and sunshine and wrap it up and then blow it up and say dirty bomb. Even though the court here in British Columbia ruled against me that I couldn't use that as a motive for why I was upset, that I couldn't use bananas or potato chips or walk in the sunshine, which are my actual words, were read to me in court and said I couldn't use them. Yeah, and I contacted 16 lawyers and couldn't get a lawyer to take me because I'm taking on the law school itself. That's the law school that came after me. That's who the University of Victoria, British Columbia, Canada actually is. It's the law school in British Columbia. Victoria is capital of Canada. And then students from all over the world will come here to go to that law school. So the law school came after me, not the individual. I'm not barred from the individual's home. I'm not barred from their street. I'm not barred from their neighborhood. I'm barred from University of Victoria. So there's a big difference. So that noise gate is something else, yeah? Just pure silence. How weird is that for everybody? Hi, everybody. Yeah, good show today, Lonnie. Crazy show today. As usual, hi, Candace. Thomas again. And Alex again. Amtors, everybody. I'm just having a quick boot. Let's keep moving. Keep rolling. We're into a half an hour. Okay. So when you look at these models, that's not bananas. That's not potato chips. Now, if you took a fish out and you tried to eat a fish while that was coming through, your fish is coated in radiation. If I took a fish out right now, see the Geiger counter up in the top right-hand corner of the video. That's real time, right here, right now. Here, I'll give it a shake. I had to do it slow because otherwise if it touches the microphone setup I got here, I'll bust your speakers there probably. Just kidding. Now, 5 Beckles in Germany to throw the food away. Pre-Fukushima. 17 Beckles in France, pre-Fukushima, the same day. They were packaging it up per kilogram, putting it in a nuclear waste site, per kilogram. 158 counts a minute is a unisievert a minute. That's the environment I'm living in. These are counts per minute converted over. These are incredibly dangerous numbers. And cancer takes 10, 20, 30, 40 years to manifest, diagnose, and show up. But heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, adrenaline glands, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, stuff like that, 1,800 of them will show up long before the cancer. Cancer can show up quickly, particularly when you're talking about beta emitters in your bones, like strontium or the plutonium. And plutonium is man-made. And just a tiny, they say 1/1,000,000th of a gram is actually about 1/1,000,000th of a gram will kill you. 1/37th. Well, so a gram of natural, like potassium 40, 1 gram. Think about it, the size of a dime. It's harmless. You can eat it and walk away. It can never hurt you because it's natural potassium. It's irrelevant. Yeah, it's an emitter, but it's not like radiation. But a gram of man-made is 88 times 37 billion atoms, man-made atoms. Or a gram of natural is 160 atoms, but they can't hurt you. But man-made, a gram, the size of a dime, is 1,000,000 watts. So think about powering 1,000,000 1-watt light bulbs, like flashlight light bulbs, say, or light bulb, whatever. 1,000,000 1-watt light bulbs for 9 months for a gram, a man-made, but nature couldn't make a spark. You couldn't even get a spark, let alone electricity. Let's put it that way. And that is why, when there's normally supposed to be 3 out of 1,000,000 children, 3 out of 1,000,000, in Japan would be normal, might have thyroid issues. Now, thyroid only showed up after nuclear, but now, not 35% of, is not the right way to look at it, but we'll look at it that way. We're 13,600 out of 24,000. So not 13,646 out of 1,000,000 versus 3 out of 1,000,000. No, 14,646 out of 24,000. So in other words, out of 1,000,000 people, 350,000 people could be expected to have thyroid issues diagnosed in the near future. Out of 1,000,000, not 3 out of 1,000,000, but 350,000 out of 1,000,000. And so these numbers are incredible, disturbing when they're only looking at thyroid. They're not looking at the bone emitters, not looking at the stuff that's aggregated into the muscles or the other organs, because the thyroid is a gland. And thyroid will also, not just iodine 131, of course, thyroid will accept any beater, any radiation that emits in the same category as the iodine. So cesium-137 will go into your thyroid the same as iodine. Now the iodine-131 has a 8-day half-life, then it changes to another isotope. But cesium stays the same for 30 years. But even if it was just iodine, the radiating of your thyroid gland, those issues, those difficulties will last forever. And so this is France's model, IRSN. And so how are you going to restart a reactor that's doing that? That's released all this material. How are you going to restart that? Who's going to restart that? Because only the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society. But look at your chart. Look at your model. Based upon a couple of isotopes, not based upon the actual inventories, not based upon 6 reactors per building. Not based upon the chain reaction, the consumption of everything around it with fissionable products being contaminated and atomized in aerosol and released into the environment. We're not talking about all the common spent fuel pools. We're not talking about all the dumping in the ocean. We're not talking about that they've been doing nonstop for 5 years just at Fukushima. Burning it in the incinerators right across the country. Dirty bomb after dirty bomb, all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's no end in sight. That's their solution, is to find it, bring it to an incinerator and burn it. And if it lands on the ground, dig it up, bring it to the incinerator and hope the wind is stronger and blows it out to sea. That's their solution. This will never stop. Even if this was just a single release, we're in this trouble. We can't ignore it. We can't get away from it. We can't switch it off. We can't pretend it didn't happen. There is no way back. We have to find a way forward. Obviously, they have plans, and normally 5 becquerels would be packaged up. That's why Germany gave up nuclear, because there's no way to maintain. They would have to endanger everybody and everything in their country that is already endangered just from the plumes that came through their countries. See, these plumes circle the planet every 40 days or so. But it's not like it's just a plume. The plume never stops going out. This is just an air dispersal. What about the ocean? See? And so this stuff does not fall in the ocean, does not wash back down to the ocean, does not everything go to the ocean at some point if it can find its way there and doesn't get caught up and utilized somewhere else? Of course it does. It's not liberated by the tens of thousands of miles of rain clouds every day and brought in from the ocean anyway. And not only that, from the fog, not only that, from everything that's from all the waste sites, from all the nuclear sites. But the problem being is that a single melted reactor is a planet killer. And Japan has 4 that we know about, but we can assume there's 15. We can assume that there's at least 15, and that if you're inhaling just one of these particles, that there's a price to pay. There's a pound of flesh to be paid for that. And so they connect you. Oh, you got to worry about the terrorists when they're the terrorists, but yet the terrorists got off. Well, so what? Like, this is an Oxford professor. This is a professor, and Oxford didn't come out and disavow this person. This is a well-known crank, right? He's a well-known nut job. But that nut job put out generation after generation after generation after generation of nut jobs. And that no one's going to make them redo their degrees. Them students, all of the students should be getting their money back. They don't want to. They like what they're doing. They like coming out and sprouting these same lies. This is where they learned it. This is the manifestation of stupid. Why do people still avoid products from Fukushima? Because it never stopped coming in there. Because there was just, even though it was just a single release, you would avoid it. But the fact that it never stopped coming in there, this is an actual study where they try to trick people. You should read it sometime. Why do people still avoid it? Well, because you people are crazy. We can't believe a word that comes out of your mind. But we know that the jet streams and the air currents are real. And here's what Taiwan done. Immediately take off their clothing and cleanse nuclear contaminants. But basically, they said, leave your boots outside. If you got to go out, wear a jacket and dispose of it after, and do that for yourself. We got heavy fallout coming our way. So they warned everybody, don't drink the rainwater. Don't eat the fruit and the vegetables grown outdoors anymore. They warned their citizens. That's all he could do, and he done it. But yet our government said that was impossible. He couldn't do something like that. Well, gee, how could we possibly tell the truth? Is that what they're saying? So it's easier to come out and then try to spend the rest of your life covering it up, apparently, than it is to come out and tell the truth. Taiwan doesn't have to spend the rest of their life saying, keep the cover up alive, because Taiwan come out and tell the truth. Yeah, we got it, nothing we can do about it, but we're going to try to find ways to sterilize water, purify water, and to find ways to deal with the future and grow food without the nuclear waste in it. Right? Now they can set up on a real course. But in North America, no, we paid them to look for it. We gave them equipment to look for it. We gave them equipment and we gave them the authority to look for it and tell us. They never got the job for something to do. They got the job to look for it, find it, tell us. They got the job in case it happened there to look for it here. Tell us. The media got the same job, same responsibility, same obligation. Their job is not to lie and pretend it didn't happen and demonize anybody who said, hey, what's going on? Come out and bludgeon them to death so they don't wake up and not able to understand the seriousness. Oh, you should go read an article by so-and-so. I did. 9,000 of them. To say the least. And so why did they keep saying it's like a banana potato chip just because some whack job said it was? Oh, it's like a banana. And then, so therefore, all the media can say, oh, I'm not going to look it up and find out where it's like a banana. I'm just going to keep saying that decade after decade. That's what your media done. Your media has learned nothing. For 70 years, you told you it's like a banana. What, you can't look it up and find out it's not like a banana, but a banana's got nothing to do with it, and that's the typical lie? Because they think you're so stupid, they got to talk to you on that level? Because you've been doing it for 70 years and you don't know how else to do it? But that's what you do? No, if a terrorist gets a dirty bomb, you got to evacuate your city. Yeah? But if they do it to you, you're just being a fearmonger. You should move back in your house. It's just a little bit of man-made. There's a lot more in nature, Dina. I've had that said to me over and over and over and over and over. Not by genuine people, but by the public relation firms that exist upon misery only. And, of course, in order for them to be wealthy, they have to create misery. They have to make sure the misery never gets understood and people can't avoid it. That's their job, to trick you and make you live in that agony and that misery that shows up years later. Boy, they jet set off on their vacations with their children and send them to the Ivy League schools. And their children look at them with admiration that their parents are so wonderfully successful. But their parents knows that they're the lowest forms of life imaginable. They couldn't exist in this capacity unless they murdered everything else. That's what they do for a job. That's what they do for a living. The biggest flaw on the planet is a public relation firm. The biggest threat to humanity is a public relation firm that works for the nuclear industry. The biggest betrayal of humanity is the governments that have kept silence. Taiwan didn't. They said, fuck, it's coming through, bitch. Zip her up. Get rid of your old clothing now. Just wear it and throw it away every time you go outdoors till the rain stops. If you got to go out, try not to go out. Make the pizza boy go out for the next week. Eat your pizzas. And don't get it wet. How hard was that? How terrible was that for the government to come in and say, well, we got radiation coming through from Japan. Not like a banana, by the way, because that's what they have to do here, see? Fukushima workers transported to hospital, but they keep saying nobody died. 7 people died on one street. Pneumonia surges, which is what we've seen after Chernobyl. 3,000 evacuees rushed to hospital. Oh, that's not the one. What did I get down here? Oh, yeah. 3,000 people rushed to hospital. And, of course, the savages in the media out there and the pundits and the nuclear blogs and the climate scientists, which is the biggest betrayal of academics imaginable, they're pro-nuclear, are just saying they died because of stress. No, they were in the plume. That's why they were evacuated. They were in the plume, morons. But they spun it. They said, oh, no, they died of heart. Oh, there's so much stress being moved away from their home. Homes are destroyed in tornadoes all the time. Homes are destroyed in floods all the time. Homes are destroyed. We've never seen the system come out and say they all died because of the people that were stressed out, because they were stressed out. No mention at all. But all of a sudden when it comes to nuclear, and you got to think about the actual, they were discovering stuff immediately after the accident. People, 40% of the visitors had internal exposure to radiation. So the studies on the beagle dogs and the beagle puppies, let me just explain that part one more time about how much the animals. Now this was Dr. Raymond Gilmedy from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, New Mexico, and he done all kinds of studies on. So curium isotope is the biggest major byproduct of the radiated fuel rods, and curium killed the dogs the same way as plutonium did. But look at this, the dogs inhaled one of two sizes, and every dog died in every study for 70 years. Meanwhile, I'll get it. Meanwhile, 40% of the visitors, those doses are going to be much bigger than the dogs. We're talking about 10, 20, 30,000 counts for each hour that they were exposed. Okay, I'm not on the right one. This one over here, Dina. They didn't bleed and the hair didn't fall out. So many were exhausted, is one report. And they did, though. There was major cases of bleeding in the nose and eyes. Internal radiation exposures damage the DNA, pulses through your body. It pulses. It's like boom, every second, 60 seconds in a minute, 1,440 minutes in a day. It's radiating, pulsing. So if you got it here, it can pulse all the way down to your groin, all the way through your bones. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere. But what about if you're breathing it and eating it and drinking it and bathing in it and washing in it all the time, because you are? And what about those massive plumes coming through that lingered in areas for months at a time, like we see happening with the automobile pollution from Asia, or we see happening with the forest fires from Asia, with the pollution, how it adds to the index in North America? If you consider any of these, or a majority of them, or just a few of them, you start understanding that we really truly are in a lot of trouble, that we really got to get our acts together, and that we don't bow down to a corporation. We're not going to sit here idle while a corporation like Tepco wrecks the entire planet. It's already killed the Pacific Ocean, and most likely already done the planet. But are we going to sit here and let them be the last ones out there? Are we going to sit there and let them be unaccountable? Are we going to allow the nuclear industry to proliferate misery like this? So even a low dose will cause you damage. And a low dose, workers found unconscious. Radiation worker died just after 1 week, because he got hit with gamma shine. He got hit with neutron bombardments. He got hit with X-rays. He got hit from the actual pulses of the fuel rods. That's why they keep it in water, to try to contain these neutron bursts and shine. And this stuff will drop you right there. Drop you right smack down. 1 pound of it will kill 1,500 people in 20 minutes in a theater. A Dixie cup of it, like a small cup of ice cream, those little small cups you used to be able to buy, these come Dixie cups in a bygone era. But these little half cups, 1/4 cups, 1/3 cup of a cup, if you fill that up with the radioactive material, and you put it in a big restaurant like McDonald's or whatever, where there's a big volume, you'll kill everybody who comes through the door. Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Some of them might take 2 weeks to die down the road, but the fact that they went in there and walked through and walked out the other side, they're done. See, this is why nuclear is so twisted and evil, and there is no technology that can contain it. If you try to contain it, it'll detonate. It only needs oxygen. It doesn't need a flame. It doesn't need a spark. But this one in particular, like the plot of a summer horror flick, this is a recent headline, July 7, 2016. All along Canada's Pacific coast, mussels are dying. The bodies are swollen by cancerous tumors, unprecedented mutations, allowing cancer to spread from one species to another, like the flu, like chickenpox, and the scientists, it's beyond surprising. Now they're talking about the whole coastline of Canada, all along Canada's Pacific coast. Their bodies are swollen by cancerous tumors. Do you want to buy some mussels? Well, a friend of mine called up the local mussel association here. He's just retired a few years back. He still has a mussel farm out there. He's not operating anymore. It's a beautiful place, incredible. He used a sawmill and built his own house. Amazing. Just logs off the beach. It's amazing what they've done out there. So he called him up to ask him, and they weren't there at the time. They got back to him because he's been dealing with him for a couple of decades. He's the real deal. And he said they weren't aware of this. But it terrified him. She looked it up online while he was talking to her. He got her to look it up, and he wanted to get that opinion because, he might never hear back from him after. But he's skeptical that, these people are not aware, and sure enough, he was right. But this is a study showing the mussels are dying full of cancers. But what about my study? What about my study along the entire coastline of Canada, 15,000 miles, in a dinghy? Instead of looking incredible, inconceivable, unimaginable, unbelievable, I went into every little nook and cranny you can imagine. The best spots on the planet, and I went ashore and I didn't find it. It was all gone. And that nobody had bothered telling us. And that this is inconceivable. That vast part of North America no longer has that. That is now naked. And I know this firsthand because I went there. I know these places. I have 14,000 hours in both oceans in Canada. I'm not gullible. I'm not naive. I'm methodical. I know it looks like that, but I can't find it. I've worked in the environment and I've never seen it look like that. It always looked like this. No matter where I went, this is what I'm used to. This is why I coveted it so much. It's not supposed to ever... These are all from the same spot in Louise Narrows, at the top of the Haida, formerly known as the Queen Charlotte Islands in British Columbia, Canada. But to come in and see that instead of this. To not worry about them. Think about that one. Normally, everywhere you go, that's your biggest fear at these super low tides. You can't avoid the sea urchins, but let's come back over. So if you got a kid and you're an academic, you're a government official, instead of saying Fukushima has made seafood too dangerous, and your kid will say, well, Mom, you tells everybody it's not, right? And she, yeah, honey, I'm a government, I'm allowed to lie. They're not going to do that. So they produce these studies to say the bodies are swollen by cancers like leukemias. If you go read the article, they're talking about leukemia. And it's jumping to clams and jumping to all kinds of shellfish. And that's a good way to get your privileged inbreed if you're a government official, government insider, one of their friends. You can get your children to stop eating the seafood because, hey, it's spreading to everything, honey. Meanwhile, you're a monster that's telling that to your child because you got to hide another lie. Unlike Taiwan, that came out and told everybody, hey, there's a big cloud coming through, folks. You got to get rid of your clothing that you're wearing for those days. At least do that, see? Child cancer up 5,000%, who cares? Big deal. Because it's not your kid that's dying there, maybe it is. Baby seals dying of leukemia. Leukemia. Cancer epidemic underway, rates up 6,000%. Definitely a holocaust. Like the numbers I showed you earlier, not 3 in a million, but 36%. Outbreak of cancer is now underway in Fukushima children. Clear evidence of an epidemic. Yeah, epidemic. But cancer is the last one to manifest to get diagnosed. So 1,800 diseases will show up first. The radiation is killing the children, but cancer is the last one to show up. Leukemia might show up quicker, and does, rather. And the same as the thyroid, because we know how to look for those. But the rest of it, your body is under attack constantly with white blood cells fighting the radiation that's in your body. And so we have to come out here and plead with the world to come to its sanity. And that we need a narrative out there to educate the population And that, as you can see, if you look at my site, I've been censored heavily in the last couple of months. I got 20,000 subscribers, but I put out a great video last night with perfect audio, and I got less than 200 videos by the time I woke up this morning, and then another 12 by the time I done this stream several hours later. Which we all know that's nonsense. That's not actual true. And we know that in the court records, they said they were censoring me. The FBI, Canadian Sandwich Police Department, Constable Steve Crooks. We know that Woods Hole and the UVic, 4 of these institutions worked together to censor me on the internet at Google without a warrant. Or they're waiting to charge me, looking for me to say something so they can get me charged. They tried 2 times in 2014. They couldn't get me charged. The judge turned it down. Prosecutor turned it down. 2015, they stacked them up. At the end of 2015, after I come off the ocean, they broke out those 2 charges from earlier in the year. And then while I was in jail for 12 hours, they used ghost accounts to knock down the videos they accused me of. And gave me a warrant to take down 300 videos on my site at the same time. So when I get out, there's 2 videos I don't have to knock down because they just took them down in the 12 hours I was sitting in jail, and one of them's almost a year old. So who out there knew I was going to be arrested, and who knew that in that 12-hour period before I got back home to take down the 2 videos I was going to be arrested for? I wonder? And why would you use ghost accounts? Why wouldn't you use the court order when that's exactly what you gave me that day? Well, a lot to hide, haven't you? Many young people in Fukushima in high school died suddenly. We've seen incidences where teachers and students died on the same day at school, just dropped dead. Oh, it's so normal, Dana. They had too much milk. Doctors near Tokyo attribute symptoms to radiation exposure: bleeding in the gums, nosebleeds, stubborn cases of diarrhea. This is autoimmune deficiency going into survival mode. Leukemia is up 7 times for less. We know there's 860,000 more cancers in 2012 in Japan than any other year previous to that. It was a jump of over 750,000 cancer. And cancer is the last one to show up. They should be studying diabetes and Alzheimer's and dementia and stuff like that, see? Here's a guy who didn't know better, believed nonsense is like a banana potato chip and walking in the sunshine, and died because of those lies. Kids will suffer vicious heart attacks. There was a study done in North America about that. 3rd worker found dead. Just boom through a few of these. X-rays during pregnancy, game over for your child. Children living near nuclear power plants have double leukemia. And there's also 6 times more breast cancer within a 15-kilometer zone. But look at the numbers around Tokyo. We'll end it on that. 18 million becquerels square meter, or 276,000 becquerels a kilogram. In Germany, you would pack the food away at 5, and in France, it's 17 pre-Fukushima, or even on the same day. Now they're burning that in the incinerators on top of this. That's exactly the numbers they're burning in the incinerators. Hospital worker leaks information about recent increases in acute leukemia. Tokyo area? Yeah. And leukemia is the first one to show up in cancers. There's a bone cancer, there's mutated stem cells. And we covered all these recently, so I'm just going to burn out. Birth defects, stillbirths, spontaneous abortions on the rise. And when you turn off a nuclear power plant, these stop showing up, stop manifesting. Because a nuclear power plant is always releasing it into your environment. It's always, constantly, endlessly. Let's bring up everybody. Now, there it is. So, once again, hi everybody, hugs everybody, thank you everybody. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for the things you do. Thank you for your humbleness. And thank you for understanding that it's so hard to do things I do by myself. And that I'm never by myself when I'm doing what I'm doing right now, am I? Right? And so that gives me that strength. And it gives me hope of a way forward. It gives me hope that we, at some point, will break through that consciousness that is humanity, and that when challenged, we're all capable of rising up. When challenged with the ultimate fears and the ultimate, we have a way of banding together in a way of disregarding our bigotry and our bias and our prejudices. And we have this Like if we had a forest fire and we were a divided community, that forest fire was coming through our community, we would all work side by side. Even the race, religion, it wouldn't matter. We would work side by side to salvage and go back to fighting after. But we would work to solve that enormous, threatening environment. We used to do that. That is who we are. Even though we might not do it today, I like to think we are. I refuse to accept that we're hopeless society. I refuse to bow down and give up. I refuse that. I will never. I'm not capable of giving up. That is, I think, the problem with me, and the good thing about me. And that most people should understand that about me, is that I won't give up. I don't know how to. I do know how to fight. I do know how to scrap. I do know how to educate, and I do know how to be relentless. And, I have all the emotions. I have every emotion intact. And so I have to run that gamut all the time too. But if I didn't have those emotions, I could be much better. But unfortunately, I have those emotions. And if the truth was to be known, that is probably what drives me. I watched a video, and I ended on this. Look, I watched a video, and I'll bring it up. And I'll just show you, it's hard to look at. And it's the babies of Iraq. It's about Fallujah. Finding Farah. He was looking for a child. And there's going to be hard white pictures to watch. I'm going to jump ahead. Hang on. But that is nothing compared to the rest of the pictures. But this is terrible. And he goes back looking for that child to find out about the surgeries and stuff like that. And the child is living in an orphanage, of course. And there's those emotions that no one's going to love that child. That child won't know that, won't understand that. Not even for a minute. We'll never have that imprint. And we'll have that imprint of people looking at the child and wincing and horror and reject. But the brain is most likely fine. And so the person who lives behind that face that is growing up is imprinted with everybody in revulsion looking at him. And that pissed me off so much. That upset me so bad this morning. I was entrenched in it. And at the end of it, I just couldn't get that out of my system. I couldn't beat it off. I couldn't knock it off my shoulder that this is so wrong. This is so wrong, and this is nuclear. That's what nuclear does. And we know 84% of the children in Fallujah are like that child, but most of them much worse. And as you watch that documentary, you'll see what I'm talking about. And that's not what I wanted to bring up. So we'll say good day to everybody. Hugs for everybody. Yes, Sam, Thursday, children are innocent. Thomas, I know Elaine is out there. Nuts for Art, which is Lonnie. We done a radio show this morning. Jan Brooks, Miss Milky the Clown, has got a whole bunch of pictures to add on to it. I'll have it up at her site. And everybody, hugs for everybody. Neil, Candace, Tree Wolf, be strong. Ackerman Thomas, hey buddy. Hi everybody. I haven't gotten any emails in the last 4 or 5 days. I'm still recovering, but I've recovered pretty darn good. Illusion, hi everybody. And everybody, Daniel, and anybody I didn't get, fix it. My apologies. As you know, I don't need to apologize to you folks. But I do apologize in case there are people out there who don't know any better and think I'm ignoring them or something like that. I either love you or I block you. There's no middle ground. I haven't got the time, see? This is what I'm saying to some people out there that I've blocked recently. I'm not going to apologize for blocking anybody. If they're here to play games with you, then they're not supposed to be here, see? This is supposed to be a community where people are able to foster and live life and think about the realities and not have these PR firms come in and pull their game on us. But anyway, I'll just leave it at that. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody Monday, 10:30 a.m. live right here at Dana Durnford live streaming. And you can find the documentation of all the the trips along the coastline up at the nuclearproctologist.org. Hugs for everybody. Take care, folks.